Put some money in his tip jar.
You're here. Welcome to the March 15th meeting of the Rotary Club of South Jacksonville. If we don't seem to have any new members today, but if we did, what we would tell them is that we were happy that you can join us. Please remember, we would say, to mute yourself and submit any questions or comments via chat, or unmute yourself and let us hear from you. That is what we would say if you were here. The prayer and pledge today will be given by Bob Massey. Please welcome Bob.
Start with a moment of reflection first. It's BP, not BC. It's before Patty, which is quite a while ago. In fact, Barry Covington was president when this piece of paper came out. It was a printed copy of the gear. I only have a portion of the gear.
He stopped using stone by then.
This is dating back from 1988, 1980 time when Barry was the president. And it's a reflection that appeared in our gear by John D. Rockefeller Jr. And I'm going to share that with us today. I believe in the supreme worth of the individual and his right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I believe that every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity an obligation, every possession a duty. I believe that the law was made for man and not man for the law, that government is the servant of the people and not their master. I believe in the dignity of labor, whether with head or hand, that the world owes no man a living, but that it owes every man an opportunity to make a living. I believe that truth and justice are fundamental to an enduring social order. I believe in the sacredness of a promise that a man's word should be as good as his bond, that character, not wealth or power or position, is of supreme worth. I believe that the rendering of useful service is the common duty of mankind, and that only in the purifying fire of sacrifice is the dross of selfishness consumed, and the greatness of the human soul set free. I believe in an all-wise and all-loving God named by whatever name, and that the individual's highest fulfillment, greatest happiness, and widest usefulness are to be found in living in harmony with his will. I believe that love is the greatest thing in the world, that it alone can overcome hate, that right can and will triumph over might. Amen. Please follow me in the pledge of the allegiance to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I would invite Christy King to come forward for family time. Welcome.
See everybody. We do have a short family of Rotary update today with two wedding anniversaries. Past President Tom Rainey and his wife Melinda are celebrating their 33rd wedding anniversary on March 18th. And Ed Vaughn and his wife Juliet are celebrating their 29th wedding anniversary on March 20th.
And Lisa Marie Winslow is celebrating 25 years with her husband Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh. Wow. All good things. Thank you so much. And a craft talk and or history moment from past President Mike Dara. Welcome, Mike.
Give me a 1 minute warning. Okay. All right.
So I have a choice of giving you a craft talk, and many of you may know that my craft over the last 5 years has been Rotary. Working as district governor, and then eventually getting asked to work at the zone level, which most people go, what is that? But here's the cool thing. You get to learn all these neat things about Rotary. For example, when was Rotary founded?
1905.
1905. Where was the place before Chicago and Evanston? Where was the place that Paul Harris looked at founding Rotary?
Give me a minute.
Jacksonville. Why was it not founded in Rotary? In Jacksonville.
JDA sample.
Another, close. Anybody know? 1901? A great fire that burned down, and the smoke could be seen from Savannah. And George Clark, who founded the club, said, man, we got to rebuild the city here. We can't do Rotary, or whatever you're going to call it. I don't even know that it had a name then. So let me just tell you a couple of interesting things. And Dean Scott and Bob Massey, probably know this. I was going to ask Bob to bring the 2-inch thick manual of procedure so that I could read to you from that, because that is the ruling document. I don't know when they started doing that. My grandfather actually joined Rotary in the 1920s in club number 11 in St. Louis. So that was a while ago, and my dad joined that same club. So let me ask you a quick thing. In the early days of Rotary, what was the thing that would get you kicked out other than not paying your dues?
Attendance.
Doing business.
Doing business. It was not attendance. For a long time, it was attendance. You'd kick people out for not attending. But doing business, when Rotary was founded in 1905, if you didn't do business with another Rotarian during the month, you would be removed. And that was before the Better Business Bureau. That was when Rotary was the place you went to find people that you knew had integrity. So we still do that, and that is carrying on from those times. So I'm just going to give you a very brief picture of what the zone does and what Rotary International does. Above the district governors, and as you all may know, Northeast Florida is a district. There are about 525 districts throughout the 200 countries that have Rotary, and that's almost all countries in the world. So above that district level is a zone, and there are 34 zones. They combine our zone, which is Georgia, Florida, and Caribbean, with the zone north of us, which runs up to Pennsylvania and New York City. And that becomes one director's area. So there are 17 directors on the board at Rotary International. What governs Rotary, and used to govern it during my dad's time, govern it like a vice, was the manual of procedure. Every 3 years, Rotarians met and they voted on the different things in the manual of procedure, and they voted down in the weeds about what it meant to be a Rotarian and whether you were able to take up. This was a big thing. You had to attend, what was it? Bob, when you joined, was it 70, 60%? You had to make 60% of the meetings?
It was at least 70, I think it was 80.
Okay. Yeah, and you could, if you missed, you could make up, but only the 6 days before and the 6 days after you could go to another club. All sorts of things like that. And starting in about 2010, they realized this is a strangle on us rather than a guiding light for us. And they started easing up on that. So those are all things our board member does, all those decisions in between those every 3 years changes in the manual of procedure. And for those who don't know it, I'm working under our board director as the membership person for Georgia, Florida, and Caribbean. And if you ever get a chance to do any of these jobs, it is a blast, particularly working with the Caribbean. The chance to work with different cultures is just so cool. So back to you.
Thank you so much. Please allow me to remind our board members that there is a board meeting beginning just 5 minutes after this regular meeting and in this room today. Let's see. I have a note that it is time to review the social that happened at Rue. Is there somebody that's ready to do that?
Lisa Marie?
Okay, Lisa Marie.
I'm just gonna keep rolling with the other announcements, if you don't mind, rather than coming up and down. We had a great time at Rue last night. I had a great time at Rue. I don't know about everybody else, but judging by the conversations that were going on and the drinks that were flowing and the tab that ended up, I think we had a very, very nice time. So thank you to Mr. Rainey for doing, making sure that that was a successful event. So just a round of applause. I know he loves the recognition, so I just want to make sure that much better. Our next social is going to be a golf outing for fun. So we're working on that right now. If you're interested, I know Mr. Signorello may have sent something out for those folks who are interested. I do have a list of people who express some interest. It is for fun and serious golfers, but we will be playing golf in the month of May, probably at San Jose Country Club, right after one of our lunch meetings. So if you're interested and you didn't previously express interest, please let me know and we'll make sure that you get included for a round of golf at San Jose Country Club coming up in May while the weather is still pleasant. And then last, but certainly not least, is Casino Royale. It is on May 007, just in case you missed the date. So we're very, very excited about this fundraising and fun event. We have a number of folks and companies, organizations that have committed already for the silent and the live auction. And so that's been a lot of fun. Our planning meetings, everybody's contributions have just been amazing. For every ticket, so the ticket prices are $200 per ticket. There also is a VIP ticket. So if you'd like to have early entrance to booze and to gambling and to the silent auction, you can pay $25 more per ticket and get entry. Patty, as usual, is gracious. If you don't want to go through the online ticket process or what have you, just let Patty know before you leave how many tickets you want and she will bill your account. If you prefer to go through the online process and put it on a credit card and buy 20 tickets that way, we're happy to allow you to do that. I do want to remind everybody that every member will be responsible for a contribution and a ticket to 2 tickets to the event. But we would like for those who are attending to go ahead and purchase their tickets now so that we can get a good count. We are limited to 175 people at our secret location at our venue. And because of that, we have a small amount that we're opening up to the community. We want to make sure that Rotarians, especially our club Rotarians, get the opportunity to do that first. And next week, I'm actually sending out an invitation to our other district clubs to invite them to participate. And there's a few guests that have already indicated and bought tickets outside of Rotary. So we're very excited about this upcoming event. Any questions? Barry?
Is that $200 per couple, or do I need to
Per
tell
person.
Cindy I'll take a lot of pictures for her?
It's 2 per member.
Okay.
Yep. So, the tickets are $200 per person. With that, again, you get open bar, you get access to the silent and live auction, you get $2,000 in gambling chips, which is significant, and you also get, there's one more thing. What did I forget? Food. Oh my goodness, food, of course, right? And so we've got a really nice lineup for food and entertainment. We will have some music, and of course, we are going on the James Bond theme. So pick your movie and dress the part. Men, you don't have many options. Ladies, we've got a lot. You can pull it off. So anyway, thank you, President Richard. I do have flyers if you want to give them to somebody with a QR code on it to make it easy for folks who are not members to purchase tickets. So just let me know. I did bring some extra flyers with me. Are these yours or mine?
I think they're yours.
Okay, just want to make sure. Take them back. Thank you.
The 50/50 raffle with Bill Trayer.
Got to add in that one of the other benefits is you'll get 2 free tickets for the next upcoming 50/50 raffle. We'll throw that in. No extra cost. That should be an incentive for anybody. So I just need an honest person. Oh, hell, nobody in the club.
That's my number. That's my number.
Gotta read the number.
All right, ready? 090975. 090975.
Right. There's some people around.
Nope, I look every time.
I'm gonna just show it because I want this to be an honor. There is an ace of spades.
All right.
Bill, we never doubted Lori when she does that.
Well, it was never any other. I'm sorry. You know, when you're making, you want to cut or you want to draw? Okay. And the drummer?
Oh,
so close.
Close.
It won't be back in the pack, and the next year your odds are 1 in 1,000, 1 in like 43 or something like that.
My guess is it's close to 5. So those are 400 for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Bill, as long as you are up, it is time for our Rotary Moments featuring Paul Harris. This is the Ides of March, so this is the day we hear about Paul Harris coming up behind Julius Caesar. Welcome.
Okay, so far, just to remind those who were here and those that weren't here, we a couple of weeks ago, it was about Paul as a youth, and he was a part of the Repskillians, and they would jump on freight trains as they went by, and they got in trouble, and it was unique. His father sent him a postcard to tell him to quit jumping on the freight trains. Last week, he got thrown out of the University of Vermont for some unpardonable actions. He participated in some pranks, and apparently he also visited a house of ill repute. So they tossed him out. So we think, wow, this is the founder of Rotary. Those are all bad things, but he confessed to everything, and he applied at another university and was accepted at Princeton. He began to chart his life out, and he became a member of a fraternity. Now, the fraternities in those days, they enjoyed themselves as well as everybody else. But he was in the Lambdas, and when he began developing concepts about Rotary might operate, he drew from the experiences and traditions acquired as a fraternity brother. Many of the customs, remember this is way back, many of the customs, rituals, and other attributes he learned at the Owl's Nest, which was their newsletter, were later incorporated into his new organization. One Owl alumni who joined Rotary in the 1920s noted that things like singing and finding members for transgressions were standard practice with the Lambdas, and you see a lot of that. We don't do it that much in this club, but in other clubs they do fine you for, like, you don't wear your pen, stuff like that. Other characteristics like emphasizing local projects or remaining independent from national associational ties were traits common to both organizations. The Lambdas of Burlington over the years received many invitations to join national fraternities, but always felt it was wise to remain small and separate. Like Rotary, they encouraged a spirit of cooperation and mutual help among their own, the Owls. In short, the Lambdas took care of Lambdas. Rotarians take care of Rotarians. They made a concerted effort to find, develop, and choose the best candidates for inclusion in their ranks. Despite their often scathing remarks about each other in their pamphlets, which say they were jokesters, the Lambdas stressed an atmosphere of friendship, honor, truth, good conduct, brotherhood, and excellence. plus they wanted to have a good time while pursuing those lofty goals, it was these principles that were incorporated into Rotary. So Paul took a turn for the best.
Thank you. To introduce our visitors and guests, please welcome past president Alan Clark.
Thank you, President Richard. When I came in today, Mike was over tuning up his piano and he said, "What's your favorite song?" And I said, well, my wife and I, after we married a few years, we picked Strangers in the Night, Frank Sinatra's voice. And so he played that today. Thank you, Mike. He also accused me of picking the song because I hadn't been around much lately. But in any event, it's good to be back and see everyone again, and just reminds me more and more and reconfirms everything that I've always thought about Rotary. It's a great club. When you visit other clubs, I saw George Robbins the other night, who's past president of the Mandarin Rotary Club. Many of you know George. I said, George, now that we're both kind of old, I want to ask you a question. When you visit other clubs, did you ever regret or feel like you shouldn't have gone there? He said, no. I said, I haven't either. I always had a good time. And when we were trying to make up back in the day, it was hard to make up. Harder because there weren't as many clubs and the attendance requirements were a lot stricter. And sometimes I wondered how I was going to do that, and running from pillar to post and trying to keep family going and law practice going. But every time I went, even if I was in a rush to get there, a lot of times I'd see people I knew or would meet new people. And that's what Rotary is all about. Making acquaintance and serving other people by getting to know them and emulating their business models and their practices. So we want to welcome all our visitors and guests today. I don't think we have visitors, but I believe we have some guests. Crystal Brogan has two guests. Mark Gray, right?
That's right. You remember it. All right, our Mark Gray recently brought in a couple of IP people. We brought in Mitch Bunny, who is an IP attorney. Stand up, Mitch. This is Mitch's first Rotary meeting ever. And we brought in two patent agents. One is Chris Roberts, and his father was a Rotarian. And we learned about that last night, those of you who were at RU last night. So they are both my guests here today, and we're announcing that we now have a full service intellectual property department at Mark's Gray.
Past President Jason Burnett has a guest. Jason.
I'd like to talk about my law firm for a little while. I'm very happy to have back with us today Michael Hodling, who, as my guest, with Moody and Associates and as the appraiser. And I'm trying to break the record of, is Judge Khalil here? I think I brought her for 6 months before I finally got her signed up. So you're only about 4.5 months in before we. Good. So Michael Hodling, everybody.
Part of tradition, right? We got to do the welcome song. So that's another thing. People would talk about the welcome song, and it is a tradition of our club. And I'm glad Mike is here to lead us off. All right, here we go.
We here in Rotary welcome you today. So glad you came along, glad you came our way. Our hand of fellowship is yours, sunshine or in rain. We here in Rotary say welcome, come again.
And now to introduce our guest speaker in our program today, I give you Lori Whitmer.
I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker today. He has 23 years of experience in the water, wastewater industry. He has 4 degrees. If I had that many, I would want to read them all. A bachelor's in engineering science, a bachelor's in environmental engineering from UF, go Gators, I'm a Gator hater too. 2 master's degrees, an MBA from UNF, and a master's in environmental science from UCF. I think he has one of the most challenging VP positions at JA at this time. Our water industry is changing a lot. We have a lot of growth. There's supply issues. There's new regulation. And there's nobody better to lead us through this change than Haibu. Welcome our VP of JA of Water Wastewater, Haibu.
Thank you, Lori. Can everyone hear me okay? Look it up. Okay. Is it better? So, Lori said my name is Ivy. I am VP of Water and Wastewater System at JEA. And today I will talk to you about some of the major challenges that JEA is facing as a water provider and a wastewater treater for the Northeast Florida. So before we get into the challenges, I'll talk a little bit about a water and wastewater system. And I apologize if the information is basically you already know about it, but it does serve as a context for the future presentation. To JEA, we serve customers in Duval, St. John's, Nassau, and a little bit section of Clay County. For a water system, we have 38 water treatment plants spread throughout our service territory. And we get the water from the Floridan aquifer, a pristine source of water. We're very lucky in Northeast Florida to get that. And we really hardly do anything to treat the water, believe it or not. The water is a little bit, has a sulfide in it. You can sometimes smell the rotten smell. That's the hydrogen sulfide in the water. So we aerate it to get rid of the sulfide. And when we disinfect it, that's about it. That's as simple as you get for us. Huge distribution system, as you can imagine. Jacksonville is large and flat and wide, and so over 5,000 miles of pipes that transmit the water to our customers. And that does present some issues for us because the water takes a long time to go from our plants to our customers, and with the disinfectant sodium hypochlorite in the water, if it stays in the water long enough, it creates things called disinfection byproducts, which may be cancerous. So we have to make sure that we minimize those products. We are permitted by the St. John's Water Management District. They're the agency who limit how much we can withdraw water from the aquifer. So therefore, they are the ones who limit the water supply for Northeast Florida. And so the middle graphic there, you can see we get the water from the Florida aquifers, as I mentioned. We drill about 600 to 900 feet down typically to get the water for our customers. And then goes to a treatment plant to the customers. There's a graphic on the right, on the left. For our wastewater system, we serve slightly less, about 290-something-thousand customers now. Wastewater plants are regionalized. We have 11 wastewater plants overall. This is unique to Jacksonville. We have over 1,500 pump stations or lift stations that serve us because we are so wide and flat. And sewer typically flows by gravity. In the manholes you see in the streets, they flow by gravity. And you can only go so far before you have to go too deep. raising them again. That's what lift stations do. I think that's the most in the country. I think we're increasing lift station almost every day. We increase about 30 to 50 lift stations per year. So we're about almost 50 at this point in time. Wastewater treatment, we treat them by various methods. It's typically biological. A lot of people don't know this, not chemical. We actually, what God intended, what nature intended, we essentially accelerate that process. What takes days or weeks out in nature, go to one of our plants, our operators like to say, bears do in the woods, and how we get rid of it, nature, bacteria out in the woods, take care of the waste. What we do, we concentrate it at the plant and make the bugs happy, the bacteria happy, and we treat it in our plants. Sorry if you're still eating. And we treat about 80 million gallons of wastewater per day, and about 20 million gallons of those per day we reuse for irrigation, for golf courses, and for people's lawns. So we see the purple pipes out there in the system. That's our reclaimed water that's been treated. So that's the backdrop of a water and wastewater system. So where are the challenges that JEA is facing? Amongst the top are the water supply and sustainability. I mentioned that the district governs or tell us how much we can withdraw water from the aquifer. And right now we're limited at about 142 million gallons per day. At this point in time, we're well and good. Come late April, early May, when you have this 2 weeks of really dry weather and no rain, that is when we face the biggest challenge for water supply, because everyone waters their lawns, not just 1 day a week, 2 days a week, some areas 5 days. You got to keep this lawn clean. And what happens is that we don't have the ability to recover. The system doesn't. We have enough supply, but as you withdraw water, as you pump out water, we have to have the ability to store the water for the next day. When all the water is being used day after day, we don't have the ability to recover and store. So 2 weeks are very critical. We call it a challenge time. So this year, it looks like it's going to be a challenge because we think it's going to be a pretty dry spring. So I'll talk a little bit more about the water supply and sustainability, not just for now, but for the future. The other challenge we have is what we call the surface water discharge elimination bill. It's actually a Florida Senate bill, Senate Bill 64, that was recently signed into law by Governor DeSantis, which essentially says that utilities like JEA, we have to eliminate all, or at least 90% of our discharge into the rivers or ocean or sea. And JEA, we discharge about 60 million gallons of it per day into the river. By when? By 2032. So essentially we have 10 years to try to figure out how to eliminate 60 million gallons a day of wastewater effluent. And how do we do that? That's a huge challenge for us. I talked a little bit on that. And the last one is resiliency. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but does anybody know the last time a major concentrated effort throughout the nation was when we built all the water plants and wastewater treatment plants? It was back in 1972, the last Clean Water Act of 1972. They call it something else different, but that's what it's known by. 50 years ago was when a lot of the major infrastructure for water and wastewater treatment was built. And they were designed for about 50 years worth of lifetime. So we're at the point where not only the infrastructure is aging, but we have to make sure they're resilient back against, not only against what we are, hurricanes and storms and sea level rise, but a multitude of other factors. So I'll talk about that. Here's the graph. The graph on the right, you see the red line is our limit of cup of water withdrawal. And is where we think our water demand is going to be for the future. So as you can see, there's two lines, one the low one and the top one is dry versus average conditions. So we have to plan for dry, but we are optimistic that we can get average conditions. As you can see, around 2035, we could take 5 years. Supply demand is going to exceed supply, so we have to do something about our water supply now. Plan for the future. And so we are looking at ways to supplement our water supply for an aquifer. So what could we do? We recently completed what we call the Integrated Water Resource Plan, which looked at all our issues, growth, and the alternative supplies that are out there, anywhere from desalinization of brackish water, of river water, of ocean water, to looking at a stormwater system to supplement our irrigation. I figured out how to, and this is really in parallel. JEA has been doing this before that bill came out, looking to eliminate that old surface water discharge and use that in a beneficial way. And then talk about conservation. So this year, we're actually on the water side. We haven't done that before. We actually are going to start messaging conservation to our customers, really pushing it out, not just really talking about it, helping folks to conserve water. We're going to be providing rebates so that you can have high efficiency toilets, high efficiency dishwashers and clothes washer. And we'll be working with restaurants and industries to help conserve water. So that's one of the things that we'll be doing for the next 2 years. And of course, all that's you got to communicate to our customers what we're doing. The surface water discharge elimination bill. What I want you to focus on is that red oval down the bottom. We had to submit a plan for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection back in a couple of months ago for a plan to meet the elimination by 2032. So we did. JEA did a complete, call it a complete study, and you look at the number that's going to be impacted by $1.8 billion for JEA to comply with that law. So we are working with lawmakers and lobbyists to look at the timeline, because when you start, this is just an estimate of the cost that's going to allow us to do that. But when you look at a compressed timeline, look at the limited number of resources out there that can do the work, the cost is going to go up. It's not a 1.8 billion, it's probably a starting point. So we're working hard behind the scenes to allow the state to give us more time to comply with that, because we agree with the idea, in essence, the concept of water is water. It's not wastewater. It's not water. It's not reclaimed water. Water on Earth it's been recycled for millions of years, right? So it's just its use of where it comes from that we have an issue with. So we do want to eliminate the non-beneficial use of water, but give us time to do that. Get us more reclaimed customers, and build some things what we call purified water plant. So what is purified water? Essentially, is we take the wastewater effluent, reclaimed water, which already has been treated so that you can touch it, can't drink it, but it's certainly it's safe to be around. When we take that treated water and treat it even more, essentially make pure water out of it. So pure is essentially 99.999% H2O, just like the distilled water you get in all of the supermarkets, where you actually have to put in minerals to the water to drink it, because if you ever drink distilled water, it doesn't taste very good, because it doesn't have the minerals that are actually found in tap water or bottled So what we're proposing to do is treat this water to a very high standard. And there are two options you can go with that. You can recycle it and make it into drinking water again. But I don't think this community in Jacksonville, Northeast Florida is ready for that yet. So what but we're doing it every day. We know the astronauts do that. There's not a supply of water up there, so they do have to recycle water. But I challenge folks when they laugh, if you live anywhere along the Mississippi River, think about New Orleans, for example, and they get the water from the Mississippi River. Think about how much industry, how many things are dumped into the Mississippi River by the time it gets to the Gulf, and people actually get water from there and drink it. It's much worse. I can guarantee much worse than the wastewater treatment. But we are treating it to almost 100% pure, and what we're proposing to do is inject it back into the aquifer, and then we'll withdraw it and treat it again for our uses in the future. That does many things, right? It helps with the surface water discharge elimination. It replenishes the aquifer, and it gives credit to the district. Any gallon that you pump down, you're going to get some credit, not 100%, maybe 85% of credit back up. So essentially, reliable. We are right now, call it phase 2 of this project. We completed the pilot study at 2 plants, done a lot of research, a lot of testing on the water. And the next phase is to build what we call a demonstration plant of 1 million gallons per day. We won't do it with that water, we'll just put it back into our irrigation system. But really to prove the concept and to sell the idea, we'll have an education center, we'll have tours, and it will serve as a hub for not just Florida, but the southeastern United States. We'd be the first utility to do that. We are on the leading edge of that. So it's really exciting for me as an engineer, as a water person, to be a part of this really edge leading technology in Jacksonville. We talk about resiliency. I'll provide you a story. Back in 2016, I think it was October 2016, Hurricane Matthew came through Jacksonville. It barely, I think, glances, but we were impacted. The water and wastewater system did pretty well. We only lost about 1% of our service. But what did happen was we did lose a lot of power to our lift stations. And when this, I talked about the lift stations are the ones that kind of pump the wastewater from lower to higher elevation. We have no power. Pumps couldn't run. And so, our services were still on. People could still get water and flush the toilets. People kept flushing the toilets, but they had no way to pump them. So we experienced what we call an SSO, sewer, sanitary sewer overflow. Over 1 billion gallons, I think, back in 2016. It didn't really impact the customers, but it impacted our environment. And so we committed to look at our system, not only on the electric side, as far as water, as far as power is concerned, but on the water side, make sure that this doesn't happen again. We did a lot of work behind the scenes, make sure that we had our lift stations backed up by generators and pumps. And so we purchased a lot and brought in portable pumps and generators during the storm season. And we continue to do that to this day, every storm season. We bring in rental pumps and generators to help our lift stations. In 2017, Hurricane Irma kind of skirted by us. And that produced just unprecedented flood levels. I wish I had some pictures of downtown here. A lot of folks remember a huge flooding there. But to give the people who worked on this project a pat on the back, we reduced our SSO volume by 80% in less than 1 year. So that was a lot of work. Behind the resiliency, we looked at the storm scenarios, anywhere from the 25-year storm in 2040 to a 500-year storm in 2070. That was the range of that to see what kind of potential impacts it would have to our system. And what can we do to harm our system? Elevate infrastructure, harm infrastructure, or the worst case, build barriers around our infrastructure. We can't elevate or harm it, so that to protect our facilities. So we completed the study and identified ways and the projects that we needed to do. And we started with the local, and we do have a plan in the future to continue to upgrade our system to make it more efficient. That's for our what we call it. We deal with every year here in Jacksonville. Is the storm season have to deal with. But what about other events? Folks here may remember a couple of years ago in Houston, they faced a huge freezing temperature, which wiped out infrastructure, mainly the power grid and power plants. And as I said before, when those get knocked out, water plants, wastewater plants have no power to serve the customers. So it became an inconvenience when you have no power to a health issue, when you have no water and no way to flush waste. So we're looking into other natural events, such as the freezing temperature, and I talked about the drought. Look at my notes again. So we also have to consider nefarious acts by third party. Looking at ransomware, cyber attacks, we continually have to be in front of that, make sure our system is resilient to those attacks. And now, Black Swan, the COVID pandemic, make sure that our system is resilient to that. And unethical events, JEA, news lately, so we know about that. That was a good thing, that was limited to a few leaders at the top, and our folks continue to do their work. But we have to address that too, unfortunately. Economic factors, potential of recession is strong, so we have to make sure that we're protected against that. And I talked about the consumptive use permit and the Senate Bill 64 that's going to impact us, and the American Water Infrastructure Act of 2018 that was recently passed. But that's a good thing, because we want to make sure our water system is as strong and secure as our electrical system. But I talked about the age of our system. Just 50 years, most of the systems in place. Now it's time to replace something that to make sure our system is reliable and resilient with all the factors we're talking about, and at the same time upgrade our system. And when you talk about resilient, reliable infrastructure, you cannot talk about septic tanks in Jacksonville. We have over 65,000 septic tanks in Jacksonville. Customers are not connected to our system. And the majority of those say it's fine. The septic tank, when it's well maintained, it works great. But we have about 20-something, 20,000-ish septic tanks that do need to be upgraded. And so, in conjunction with the city is actually the leading agency in this. We're helping the city in identifying and solving the septic tanks issue. It's not a cheap solution either. We identified 32 septic tank areas that are high on the list to just address those 20,000-ish residents, 32 areas. You're talking over $1 billion worth of cost. And that's something that cannot be borne by the current ratepayers of GEA. That's in our charter. So we have to figure out a way to finance that program if we were to go forward. So our CEO has some great ideas. He's not sharing them yet, he's keeping, but he's pretty confident that he can work something out, and he's gonna have to submit it through our attorneys, and if you see in the city, but I'm confident he's gonna have some great ideas moving forward, because I am gearing up my staff and our resources to do septic tank phase-out program for the next decade. So what is JEA doing amongst all these issues and problems? It's very well aware of what we're doing. For the next 4 or 5 years, we have on our books capital plan spending nearly $2.4 billion to improve our infrastructure. This includes a brand new wastewater treatment plant down near E-Town, a brand new water treatment plant near Rivertown to help support south growth in the South Grid, and new plants in the Nassau County area, in the northwest area of Jacksonville, because that's where a lot of growth is happening now. Improving, upgrading, expanding our infrastructure, and improving and upgrading and building new pipeline from the north to the South Grid. And Jacksonville is kind of divided up by the St. Johns River, and we do have pipes connecting one side to the other. And so we will be pumping a lot of water from the north, where water quality is good and plentiful, to the south, where it's not, but where a lot of the growth is happening. That's what we're doing for the next 5, 6, probably for the foreseeable future, continue to work on our infrastructure. And that's it for me.
I heard a talk on this subject a few years ago, and I referred to the recycling program as the toilet to table program, which I thought was ill-advised marketing. No, really, it's toilet to table. Didn't seem very popular. But what I wanted to ask you about was, I'm not a marketing person, was it, I noticed the purple areas on that map, which I assume are ones you're prioritizing. Yeah, those look like they're right. San Marco, looks like Lakewood. They all look like actually where the old county limits were, and went from the city to the county, because everybody outside of that, which kind of goes right through the, if you will, Miramar area. And that, when you say prioritize, does that mean aggressively you're going to be going in those areas saying, we're going to put in pipes, you're going to have to connect?
Yes, but I'm going to qualify this. First, it was not a mark. There's a couple more phrases. I'm not going to repeat them here, because our goal is to educate, not to perpetuate those terms. It's actually created by, call it cynical journalists. I think they're very catchy. Well, local journalists who termed it sewerage. They weren't talking about toilet to tap, and it's a couple more, but zip, right? So the areas have of purple are identified as high priority areas, and ranked by numerous factors, about 15 factors that we look at, from septic tank failures to being adjacent to water bodies, to the socioeconomic situation of the neighborhoods. And so when we go through and phase out the septic tanks and put in the sewer system, you're not required to connect, but it's going to be strongly encouraged, because when you as a homeowner don't connect, when a new homeowner moves in, they have to connect. And it's the ordinance that if there's a sewer system that you can connect, you have
Or
to.
presumably if you had a septic failure,
That's right.
nobody's going to give you a permit for a new one.
Exactly. And with the areas that we're working on now, the Biltmore C and the Beverly Hills East and West, the cost is about $53,000 per lot to switch out. The homeowners don't have to pay that, and that's where the rates and who's paying for this, that's a big question.
That's assuming you don't have to have a lift station though.
It's included.
Oh, it does?
It's the majority of the cost is actually in the restoration of the roads when you build a conventional gravity. And so I didn't talk about it, but we've looked at alternative ways for a system to make it cheaper. We have identified a system that's about 30% cheaper than what we're doing. So we are decreasing the cost, but 30% of the bill is still $700 million.
You have some septic failures that are ending up in the river. Do any septic systems have permits to dump in the river that's unclean?
So your question, if there are septic tanks out there that,
How much septic, untreated septic is getting in our river, in our waterways?
that's a good question, and I am the wrong person to ask because I don't know. That's more of a Duval County, the health department, that they track that. I can say that there seems to be a lot of septic tanks out there, but when you think about it, the impact on the river from septic tanks is going to be minimal compared to the industries out there. The fertilizers that's coming off of lawns, and the huge industry that does a lot. So I don't know the numbers, but I can tell you that it's going to be it's relative as far as individual homeowners versus call it the conglomeration as a whole.
One more.
So this is a selfish question. So you talked about incentivizing homeowners who have septic tanks. What does that look like? Because my husband and I looked at doing that ourselves, and we got a $42,000 bill from the city of Jacksonville. We said, thank you, but no, we'll stay with our septic tank. That's not an incentive for me to convert, to pick up some of the expense. So what are some of those incentives for homeowners who are interested in converting? Not necessarily in the plan. I mean, we're just outside the purple area. So what does that look like for homeowners who want to be a part of the solution?
That is a great question. Because the cost rate and the fact that there's no GEA sewer system nearby. So
Oh, there is. All the houses around us are
Yeah.
already on sewer.
right, but to go from your house to that's the cost it takes to lay the pipes underground. As I mentioned, it averages about $53,000 per lot. So
42 is a bargain.
So it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me to do. So what are we doing? JEA is concerned. We are going to try to help alleviate that issue a little bit. One of our main programs is to look at what we call small diameter mains, 2-inch galvanized mains that have been in the ground for 50 to 100 years, and we need to replace that. So when we do that, that's over 200 miles. When we do that, we're looking at the sewer system in conjunction with that to address all the issues at once versus trying to build a piecemeal. So it won't be easy. It won't be immediate, but that's what we're doing long term, hopefully, to expand our system and help customers connect when they wish to connect.
I have a certificate for you, which says that we have made a small donation to the Rotary Foundation in your honor for the eradication of polio, and we are so happy that you could be with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wait, can I ask a quick question? That bottom big purple area, where is that? I can't tell. From
Your
here.
house?
Hey, I'm in St. Johns County. Everything flows freely. That's where in Julington Creek? I'm just south of it.
Yeah, it's on the north side. All the way up down to Clark's and that area. Those houses have been there. They got septic tanks for 35
Long
years.
time.
Very well. Next week, our speaker will be Numa Sicilian from the Florida Theater. Another reminder that our board meets in 5 minutes, board members. And as we end our meeting, please remember our Rotary membership motto, each one bring one, and our Rotary motto.
Service above self, one profits those who serve best.